Okay, this is RayJ2 here, and today we're going to be talking more about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Nintendo Switch. This is going to be my impressions with the game, so there's going to be spoilers. If you don't want to know, then don't watch the video, basically. I found the Master Sword. It's in the forest. I'm not worthy enough to get it yet, but just like the first Legend of Zelda, you need a certain amount of hearts to get the best weapon in the game. I don't have enough yet, but I keep coming back to make sure that I do. I have 10 hearts, which is really good, I think, and max stamina. I completed the... in order to get to the Master Sword, I had to do the Lost Woods challenge. That was tough. That was really tough because I got lost so many times. I guess that's why they call it the Lost Woods. It actually goes in like certain sections. There's the first section, which is easy, and I was thinking, oh, these Lost Woods are a joke. And then there's the second section, which is a lot harder, and then right there I was all like, oh man, I'm gonna have to brute force this somehow, and that's what I did. Apparently you're supposed to use a torch. There are clues that you can use a torch because they give you a torch like straight up before the second section, and yet I was not observant enough to notice the embers floating in the breeze, so I did that whole section without a torch. But once I got past there, I found some cool things. I saw where the Koroks live. I saw the Great Deku Tree. I did 3 extra challenges. They weren't too bad, except for the stealth challenge, which I had to do 3 times because the first time I was caught. The second time I was so stealthy that I completed the entire stealth challenge without talking to the guy at the end, which you're supposed to do. And then I did the temple, but I didn't talk to the Korok that you're supposed to, so I left the temple and he wasn't there anymore. So I had to do the whole stealth challenge again for the 3rd time. Oh man. It was the hardest stealth challenge that I've done in the game, and that includes the Yiga clan that I did on my very first try. I did not find an issue with that at all. I got 3 divine beasts down. I got the Zora one, I got the Gerudo, and I got Death Mountain. My favorite so far, I think, is gonna have to be the Gerudo. I like the sand surfing. I guess shield surfing is what it is. I really like the surfing in this game. Anytime you go on your shield and you start like going downhill 1080 degree snowboarding style, it's a lot of fun. But I did those. What else did I do? I found the oh man, I noticed the voice acting is quite bad, especially in the Goron area. Which is kind of funny, but not entirely unexpected. You got the first ever voice acting in a Zelda game, and it turns out mediocre. It almost makes me wish you could turn it off, and maybe you can in the options, but I'm going to listen to it all at least once, and then if I decide to do another playthrough, which I most likely certainly will because this game is that awesome, then I will most likely turn the voice acting off, at least before I get to that Goron area, because oh man, that guy who does the Goron voice acting for the young Goron is not very good. I've also noticed that some sort of blood moon glitching has been happening to me. From what I understand, this is a glitch that happens when you run the game for too long without restarting it. Like, I was playing for like a week, but instead of turning it off, I would just put it into sleep mode, and I noticed I was getting all sorts of blood moon glitches. Like, I would get a blood moon in the middle of the day in broad daylight, like in a village somewhere where there are no enemies at all. And one time I got a blood moon, 5 minutes later I got another one, 5 minutes later I got another one. I was very annoyed. But hopefully restarting the game fixes the issue. Once I did that, I noticed blood moons were back to normal. So hopefully that will be the case. What else did I do? I still climb everything. I max out my stamina. I have fought in a bunch of bosses, and now we're going to talk about Ganon. Oh man, storming Hyrule Castle is awesome. I've stormed Hyrule Castle 3 separate times, and on 3 separate occasions. And what's nice about that is that on every single occasion that I climbed Hyrule Castle, I did it in a different way every time. For example, the first time, I took like a mine cart like around the castle, and I went up halfway before I got sniped by a guardian and died in one hit. The second time, I went through the basement and I found a boss and the Hylian shield, and then I went up the tower, taking a detour through Princess Zelda's room and her study, where I got some nice backstory, and I fought a couple of the bosses. I fought Windswept Ganon, Water Blight Ganon, and Fire Blight Ganon, and then I died. And then later on I noticed that if you defeat the Blight Ganon forms in the dungeon, you don't have to defeat them in Hyrule Castle, which is kind of interesting, but I prefer like a little boss rush. So if I were to ever start a new game of Zelda, I will most likely not fight the bosses, so then I can fight them, not fight the bosses in the temple, so I can fight them in Hyrule Castle, one after the other. I feel that makes for a more epic experience. I noticed this my second time running through Hyrule Castle. I lost to Thunderblight Ganon, and I was like, man, forget this. I'm just gonna fight you in the dungeon. That way you won't be able to bother me over here on my next run. And I did. And what I discovered is that on my third trek up to Hyrule Castle, I went up in yet another way. So there are at least 3 different ways to get up to Hyrule Castle. My third time, I found a waterfall on the side, and I used my Zora power to swim straight up the waterfall. It was awesome. I got there really in no time at all. Plus, with a max stamina, I was able to just basically leap my way up and over. And basically, long story short, I beat Ganon, and I beat the game without doing all of the dungeons. I still haven't done the flying dungeon with where all the Rudos are and all that stuff. But final boss was fun. It was a little bit easy. It forced me how to learn how to parry, since I never parry in this game. But now that I've got it, it's actually really easy. Ganon had a couple forms. His regular form wasn't too bad. He did a lot of damage, but I was able to stop most of it with high defense meals, basically. Then he turned into solid gold Ganon, and I thought that was I couldn't hurt him at all. I was confused. I was stuck there for like 10 minutes trying to figure out how to hurt him. Then I realized you can parry in the game, and then it became very, very easy. And afterwards, there is another version of Ganon that you have to fight on horseback. That's epic. Horseback controls were a little wonky for me, but it did work. And it was, I don't even know if it's possible to fail that form of Ganon because he's so easy. Hardest boss in the game, definitely Thunderblight Ganon, which isn't even the final boss. You'll fight him at the end of the Gerudo Temple, which is kind of funny, but I'm still going to be playing more. I might talk more about the game later on, but for now, I've finished the game. But there's still a ton of side quests I need to do, It's awesome. Seriously, everyone needs to play it. I keep discovering more things about the world, and on my next impressions video, I'm going to talk about the secrets or like little known things that you can do in this game, because there's a lot of there's a lot of like small Easter eggs and things that aren't inherently obvious at first. But I'll talk about that next time, so I'll see you next time.